Hello and welcome to this week's Women's Football Chat. My name is Chris Gadsby. I'm here every Thursday at 6 p.m. bringing you the very latest from the third and fourth tiers of women's football here in England. That's the FA Women's National League. This week we have got the roundup of the second round of the Women's FA Cup, or most of it at least. There were 3 games that didn't go ahead or didn't reach their conclusion. It's a very bitty fixture list over the next 7 days as well, with 4 competitions taking place. But the main thing with this week's show is a chat with Cardiff City Ladies manager Jamie Phillip, who, if you will remember, of course, Cardiff on a 13 win streak to start the season after being relegated down into Division 1 Southwest over the summer. That is all still to come, but we're going to start, as we always do, with the results from the past 7 days, and we're going to start, as we always do, with the Northern Premier Division. Yep, just the one game. Bournemouth St Michael's 2, Derby County 2. Most of these fixtures we will just race through because there aren't many in the leagues. Goals for Derby County, a brace for Kira Barry in the 29th and the 41st minute. They were 2-1 up at half-time. Philippa Watson had opened the scoring for Bournemouth St Michael's in the 20th minute in that game. They went in 2-1 down. They pulled it back, though, 8 minutes after the break. Philippa Wilson, with, as I said, just 8 minutes gone in the second half, made it 2-2, and that is how it finished. What it means for the Northern Premier Division table is absolutely nothing at all. Derby County, they're still in 5th. They go from 13 points to 14 points. And Bournemouth St Michael's, they're still on the same goal difference. They've just gained a point, so they stay in 9th in the table. So everyone in the Northern Premier Division has played 10 games apart from Forest and Huddersfield Town. Forest remain in 2nd, 3 points behind Wolverhampton Wanderers. Now, if Forest were to win that game in hand, but we've got no idea when that game in hand is going to be played, then they would go level on points, at least level on goal difference. Should the goal difference remain the same, if Forest, for example, were to win by 1-0, Wolves would stay top because of the head-to-head record between the two sides. If Forest were to win by 2 goals or more, they'd of course go top on goal difference. If they were to win by 1 goal but anything other than 1-0, then Forest would go top on goals scored. That's how close it is between Wolverhampton Wanderers and Nottingham Forest. Huddersfield Town could do with winning that game to drag themselves into the conversation, really, between Wolves, Forest, Burnley, and then bring Huddersfield Town into that as well. You feel perhaps if Huddersfield were to lose that game in hand and they find themselves 8 points back without a game in hand going into the second half of the season, it's going to be a tall order from them. For them to get up towards the top of that table. But of course, it's football and anything could happen. Right. Speaking of anything happening, nothing happened in the Southern Premier Division because every side was involved in the FA Cup, or at least not able to play because teams were in the FA Cup. So we'll move into the Division 1 Midlands, and a thumping result for Lincoln City over Long Eaton United. A 13-0 away win, including 6 goals for Tony McHamilton. 1st minute, 40th minute, 52nd, 61st, 82nd and 88th minute for Tony McHamilton. A hat-trick as well for Jessica Razu. 20th, 59th and 86th minute. Then a brace for Madison Green, 67th and 84th minute. Also one for Lucy Farrow in the 14th minute. And that makes 12 of the 13 goals. And there was an opposition own goal in there as well in the 25th minute for Long Eaton United, who lose by 13-0 at home to Lincoln City. Other game in Division 1 Midlands, Stourbridge beating Leaford Athletic by 2-0. Neve Deasy in the first half, 35 minutes in, made it 1-0 to Stourbridge. And then just 9 minutes from time, substitute Amber Irison Lawrence made it 2-0 to the table toppers. Speaking of the table toppers, they are now 11 points clear at the top of the Division 1 Midlands table, although Sporting Cowser have 2 games in hand. Doncaster Rovers Bells have 3 games in hand. Should Doncaster Rovers Bells win all 3 games in hand, then that gap will be reduced back down to 3 points. But points on the board much better than games in hand, particularly from the Stourbridge point of view. The only movement in Division 1 Midlands, Lincoln City, after that big win, they're up a couple of places. They're in 5th. Leafield Athletic and Peterborough United both dropped down a place to accommodate for that. But of course they do, as you can see there on the video version of this show. Leafield Athletic and Peterborough United have 1 and 2 games in hand over Lincoln City respectively. In fact, Lincoln City have played more games than any of the teams that are currently chasing them, apart from Long Eaton United, who are down at the bottom there, 5 points away from safety and have a minus 66 goal difference now. Division 1 North, nothing again. Hull City against Barnsley, that was meant to take place on Thursday, actually got, if you were watching last week's show, you will see from the edit there that Hull City against Barnsley, that was supposed to happen on Thursday night and was still going ahead when I recorded the show, then got postponed in between recording the show and editing the show. So I just added a bit in the bottom. So that was postponed. Then Bradford City against Chorley was also postponed. So nothing's happened in Division 1 North. Division 1 South East, this is where it gets a bit more interesting. Ashford Town against Hounslow, abandoned at half-time. Score at half-time was Ashford Town 10, Hounslow 0. Now, the reports coming out from that game, I will preface this by saying that they are entirely from Ashford. We've heard nothing from Hounslow, so we've only got one side of the story. But what we have heard from Ashford is that they were 10-0 up at half-time. Hounslow then refused to come out for the second half, so the game was therefore abandoned, and we are still waiting on a league decision as to whether that result is going to stand or if they are going to have to play it again. Now, I have to say, if I was Ashford, if I were told to play that game again, I would be fuming being 10-0 up at half-time. But that is the situation. So we are still waiting, just checked again just now, still waiting for anything from the league as to whether that result will stand or whether that game will have to be played again. It doesn't get any easier for Hounslow either. As you'll see later on, they have top of the table #United this weekend. So we'll have to see what happens with that game. And then the other game in South East, Cambridge City 3, Chesham United 4. Goals in this one to Cambridge City, Ellen Marson, Rebecca Stevenson and Rose Sparrow. It's Chesham United who take the win. All their goals coming in the second half. Millie Congerton in the 53rd minute, Natasha Smith 61st minute, Amina Hanif in the 73rd minute, and then the game-winning goal, Gemma Fraser 6 minutes from time. Chesham United winning by 4 goals to 3. What that means for the table is they jump up above Ashford Town for the time being. As I was saying, we're waiting to see if anything happens from that game, if that game will stand. Ashford Town will go back above Chesham United if that result does stand. But we'll see what happens with that. So, Division 1 South West then. Just the one game that took place this week because of postponement. So Larkwell Athletic against Maidenhead was called off, as was Moneyfields against AFC St Austell. So just the one game then. Bournemouth beating Chelsea by 1-0. Jessica Treweek getting the only goal of that game. It means that Bournemouth go back second on goal difference over Exeter City. But Exeter City do have 2 games in hand on Bournemouth. Cardiff City still at the top. They are 5 points clear at the top. They are 5 points clear of Bournemouth and of Exeter. Now, they have 2 games in hand over Bournemouth, but they have played the same number of games as Exeter. So Exeter are just keeping the pressure on a bit. Of course, Cardiff did beat Exeter earlier on in the season. And as I said, we will hear more about Cardiff throughout this show as they... their manager, Jamie Phillip, was kind enough to take some time out to speak to me on Tuesday. So that's the situation from the league. Let's now have a look at the Women's FA Cup. We've had the 3rd round draw as well, but I'll have a look at that next week because those games are next week. And I don't want to get things confused with what fixtures are happening when. So, FA Cup then, 2nd round. As happened with the 1st round, the information is on full-time. However, the information is only on full-time for the FAWNL sides. So, for example, that second game down, Cheadle Stingers against Burnley, it's a bad example because Cheadle didn't score. But I don't have the information about the non-FAWNL sides. I only have it for the FAWNL sides. So, we'll start with AFC Fylde against Middlesbrough, a 5-4 extra time victory for AFC Fylde. Now, this one is one which is a bit interesting with all of the information. Some of it is missing. More than likely a full-time error. It often is. But 3 goals have been put down for AFC Fylde here. That's Faye McCoy in the 14th minute, Charlie Hignett in the 68th minute, and Danielle Young in the 90th minute. Goals for Middlesbrough, 1 to Jessica Whittaker, two for Jessica. Sorry, a hat trick for Jessica Dawson. So we've got there's Middlesbrough's 4. Only 3 are down for Fylde, but they did win by 5 goals to 4 in extra time. Cheadle Stingers only losing by a goal to 0 at third tier Burnley. Great result for Cheadle Town, or well fought result, should I say, for Cheadle Town. There's no information about the Burnley goal scorer up there yet either. Huddersfield Town beat Durham Sestra by 3 goals to 0. A brace for Brittany Sanderson in the second half backed up a Laura Elford first half effort to put Huddersfield Town through by those 3 goals to 0. Then we have a look at Redcar Town 2, Leeds United 7. 5th tier Redcar Town being comfortably beaten by Leeds United. Goals to Leeds. Sarah Danby, 42nd minute. Only 1-0 at half time. So a good first half from Redcar. Second half, Amy Woodruff in the 46th minute. Then Catherine Smith in the 53rd. Macy Ellis, after coming off the substitutes bench in the 62nd minute, then scored in the 66th and the 70th. Woodruff got her second of the game in the 84th minute, and Emily Sykes in the 88th minute made it 7-2 to Leeds United. They're comfortably through into the third round draw. Consett losing by 6 goals to 1 to Stockport County. It was 4-1 to Stockport at half time. 14th minute, Maria Figueiredo. 23rd minute, Levi Rathburn. Then a quick-fire double for Kenzie Bentley in the 33rd and the 37th minute. Harriet Houghton in the 67th minute, and then Maria Figueiredo again in the 79th minute gave Stockport the convincing victory over the lowest ranked side left in the competition in Consett. Newcastle United 2, Barnsley 1. Let's have a discussion about this one, shall we? Terrific effort from all involved at Newcastle United. They beat Barnsley by 2 goals to 1 after going a goal down as well. Emily Pierpont getting the opening goal for Barnsley away at Newcastle. Georgia Gibson in the 68th minute and Shana Wilkinson in the 72nd minute with the 2 goals that send Newcastle through. But that's not the great thing about this game. The great thing about this game is, yet again, it was played at St James's Park, and yet again, the Newcastle fans came out in their thousands, and that is not an exaggeration. A new record yet again, 28,565 to watch an all 4th tier game in the second round of the FA Cup. That is just incredible and amazing. Newcastle United, hats off to you. It's a prime example there of play it at a big enough stadium, like the men's stadium, which is in the centre of the city, advertise it a lot, and they will come. Fantastic effort from all involved with the Newcastle team, both the men and the women's team, who combined together to get this PR out, get people into the stadium. And it is proof, and we have seen this proof from these games that are played at the men's stadiums. Happened at the City Ground earlier with just over 5,000 in, and they've done that for the last few years. We've had it down on the south coast as well. Plymouth, Portsmouth had it as well in that pre-season game. You put it easily accessible and you market it well enough, and people go to these 4th and 3rd tier women's football games. But tremendous effort from Newcastle United, should be very much applauded. Let's move on to Liverpool Feds 4, Merseyrail 0. All the damage done in the first half here from Liverpool Feds. Rosie Kinvig, 17th and 22nd minute. Ellie Stewart in the 37th minute and Katie Thomas in the 40th minute for Liverpool Feds. And then Wemtown 1, Nottingham Forest 5. The third tier side comfortably through in the end against Wemtown, although it was 1-1 for quite a while. Sophie Domingo in the 33rd minute. Katie Doster had got a goal for Wemtown as well. So it was 1-1 for quite a while. Went in at half time at 1-1. And then a hat-trick for Amy West. Although only 2 of them have been put down on here. I know it was a hat-trick for Amy West. 65th and 77th minute are the 2 that are recorded on here. Rosetta Taylor in the 66th minute as well, putting Forest comfortably through. So those quick-fire goals towards the end there just put Forest through into the third round. Right, next page, Loughborough Lightning. A 3-1 defeat to Stoke City. Goals in this one. Stoke City 2 goals up at half time. Rosine Kivell, 13th minute. Kelsey Richardson, 44th minute. Alison Hall in the 70th minute put them 3-0 up for Loughborough Lightning, with Emily Sharp in the 75th minute got 1 back. West Bromwich Albion, convincing victory over Lichfield City. Goals to Hannah George, Marion Mahmood, Shannon Stampt, Sophie Tudor, Kerry Walklet, and a hat-trick for Phoebe Warner. Norwich City, a 3-2 victory over Sutton Coldfield Town. There it is. Only 1 goal has been put on here, though. Natasha Snelling getting goal for Norwich City, although it was 2 penalties to Megan Todd as well, with their getting their other 2 goals. There must be some way on full time to get penalties and own goals to show up on there without having to scroll down into the huge list of things that happened and find it. So that's Norwich City through against Sutton Coldfield Town. They needed 2 penalties though to get past the 5th tier side. Sporting Cows 1, Peterborough United 2, an all tier 4 affair. Olivia Woolston putting Sporting Cows in front in the first half an hour gone. Keir Perkins and Jessica O'Driscoll, 77th and 86th minute, getting the 2 goals for Peterborough United. Wolverhampton Wanderers comfortably through against 4th tier Northampton Town. Goals in this one: Jade Cross, 28th minute. Tammy George, 38th minute. Alicia Miller in the 69th minute. Beth Merrick in the 86th minute, and again there is 1 missing. A penalty to Anna Morfitt in the 54th minute was the 5th goal for Wolverhampton Wanderers, so they're comfortably through 5-0. Coventry Sphinx losing by 5-1 to Solihull Moors. There it is. Goals in this one to Solihull: Zoe Creaney, Amber Down, Cheryl Edwards, Shannon McFadden, and Emma Lee Hornsby. With the 5 goals for Solihull Moors. Ashford United, not to get confused, of course, with Ashford Town, lost by 3-1 to Actonians. All the goals coming in the second half to Actonians. Maria Ledsman-Viso in the 48th minute, Rochelle Shakes in the 77th minute, and Natsumi Kano in the 87th minute with the goals for Actonians. And Ipswich Town, 3-0 winners over London Seaward. A brace for Lucy O'Brien and 1 for Eloise King. Right, other results. We're into the second half of this properly now. Southampton Women's against London Bees was abandoned due to a bad injury in the second half of that game. And then it was decided that the players had been off the field for far too long. I think it was about 1 hour and 15 they were off the field from looking at the timing of the tweets. So it's been decided that game's been abandoned. So that's now being played this weekend, but at London Bees rather than Southampton. So that's being replayed this weekend. Portsmouth 7. I've lost it. There it is. So Portsmouth 7, Bowers and Pitsea 0. 3rd tier against 5th tier. A brace for Sophie Quirk, 79th and 86th minute. A brace for May Gordon, 41st and 77th minute. 1 for Annie Rolfe in the 92nd minute. That only makes 5. 2 opposition own goals. 34th and 47th minute were the other 2 goals for Portsmouth. So they win by 7-0. Perhaps the only thing you could call a shock here in the second round, 4th tier AFC Wimbledon beating 3rd tier Billericay Town by 2-0. Ashley Hinks in the 13th minute, Emily Donovan in the 94th minute, giving Wimbledon their 2-0 victory. And that's the only one. So far, of course, we've got some still to play, where a lower tier side's beaten the higher tier opposition. Hashtag United beat Dartford by 2-0. 0-0 at half time. 2 late goals for Hashtag United here. Kelly Wellfall in the 74th minute and Grace Gilliard in the 92nd minute getting the goals to put them through. Gillingham only just getting past Dulwich Hamlet as well. But no information about that game at all yet. Watford against Crawley Wasp was postponed, so that's going to be played this weekend. I'll come on to that in a moment. Milton Keynes Dons 3, Worthing 2, MK Dons, there it is. Goals for Milton Keynes Dons, Nicole Pepper, Rianne Rush, and then off the substitutes bench, Leonie Misselli. And Swindon Town 0, Plymouth Argyle 3. Goals to Plymouth, brace for Charlotte Whitmore in the 31st and the 40 on the second minute of added time at the end of the first half. And then Beth Island with 20 minutes to go made it 3-0 to Plymouth. Just 3 more results to go through then because one game was postponed. Bournemouth Sports against Torquay United. The all tier 5 tie went the way of Bournemouth Sports, and they've got maybe one of the hardest ties they could have got. Well, actually, no, that's not true. They could have got a much harder tie, but the tie they've got isn't easy for them either. Cardiff City beating Keynsham Town by 6-0. A hat-trick for Chloe Lloyd, 2 for Corey Williams, and 1 for Laura Williams put Cardiff City comfortably past their Division 1 South West rivals. Liscard Athletic against Oxford United was postponed, so that's going to be played this weekend. And finally, Portishead Town 2, Exeter City 0. Goals in this one to Portishead coming to Emily Lindsay and Ellie Stripple. Those are the FA Cup second round results then. As I said, the draw has been made. Wasn't without its difficulty. Should we go into that? Yeah, okay, let's go into that now because I know I mentioned it about in the interview with Jamie that's coming up in just a moment. The draw, now that the championship sides are involved, of course, we get a proper draw, yeah. It was live on TalkSport 2 at 7:30 on Monday night, pretty much right after the men's draw that was on BBC 2. But they made a bit of a mess of it. It was split north and south. What they managed to do was draw Nottingham Forest out twice and not draw Stoke City out at all, which left everybody a bit confused. There were people who obviously tuned in just to hear their side, heard that Forest came out against Leeds, went, okay, that's great, and then turned it off. And then Andy Cook, the Forest manager, said, well, are we playing Leeds or Sheffield then? To which people got a bit confused. Those who had watched it and they were like, those who had listened to the whole thing, were like, well, yeah, you came out twice, but the one against Leeds was actually Stoke's number, but they read it out as Forest. And it was all a bit confusing. Anyway, it was clear that the FA Cup, the Vitality Women's FA Cup, needed to clear this up. They either needed to listen back to the whole thing or kind of listen back, go through it all again, check all the ball numbers. Because the draw finished at... It was about 7:45, and it was a good half an hour later that the draw was publicised again. So we had half an hour of people going, I have no idea what's going on here. We've had teams... Do they have to do the whole thing again? Does that declare the draw null and void? Nobody really knew what was happening. So, yeah, great that the draw becomes live, but only in the third round because it's only relevant once the championship teams come in. Of course it is. That's a whole new issue for me. This is why it needs to be videoed, so you can have a list of the teams and the ball numbers and all the rest of it, because it didn't paint it in a good light. Let's put it that way. But that aside, we'll break now before I look at the fixtures for next week. We will break and have a look at my interview with Cardiff City Ladies manager Jamie Phillip, who, after coming to the club, and obviously they went down last year, they went for a rebrand over summer. He told me all about that. He told me about their terrific start to this season. And although he did give me an answer in the end, tried to dodge my question about the England-Wales game on Tuesday night. But here it is. Enjoy my chat with Cardiff City Ladies manager Jamie Phillip. Yeah. Well, Jamie, thank you so much for joining me and taking time out. How are you, first of all?
I'm very well, thank you. How are you?
Yeah, not as bad, thank you.
Good.
So you're the manager of Cardiff City Ladies, who are currently top of the Division 1 Southwest in Tier 4. Safe to say, of course, last season wasn't the season that the club would have wanted, got relegated, then went for a rebrand in the summer, among other things. What was the mentality behind the rebrand? Because it certainly seems to have worked so far this season.
Yeah, it seems to be the topic of conversation at the moment. So the I think being relegated was a big wake-up call for all of us, really, especially for the club. And it was a time to regroup. We had several meetings. Actually, we had our first meeting just after being relegated, the day after, which was a long journey back from Southampton. Um, and we just kind of just threw ideas out, really, and one was a rebrand, a new badge, a new kit, and just, where do we go from here? What do we want to achieve as a club? And I was really happy with the outcome of all of those meetings, and we've been able to really exceed expectations so far. So it's really good. It's really good.
Yeah, I remember so some of the viewers and listeners, I was at Cardiff for 3 seasons between 14 and 17, and it was very much, I spoke to Karen when the rebrand happened about doing things in a different way. I know there was that link up with FA Wales and kind of almost turning it into a Wales development squad of sorts. But you've come back, opening record of 13 games and 13 wins in all competitions. And let's not forget that was included a win over Bridgewater without Laura O'Sullivan, who was away with Wales at the time. And you had an outfielder in net as well in the form of Grace.
Yeah, where do I start with that one? I think it just shows the depth and the quality we've got within the squad, And again, people are going to look at this year and think, well, Cardiff should be where they are. They should be doing that because they've just come down from the league above. But obviously, us that are involved within the game understand that it's not as easy as that. You do lose players because we've been relegated or whatever the situation is. New players come in, so we were lucky in the sense that we kept quite a few players. But again, we needed a culture. We needed to kind of start fresh, and whatever we did last year clearly didn't work. So I mean, I took over with 3 games to go, and it was very difficult I mean, firstly, we had to just remotivate everyone, and it was so difficult to do that and try and stay up. We just needed a goal or two, and then we would have been fine. We were competing in every game at the end as well. So I think the fact that we got through that, and we managed to keep a good number of players coming on to this league, that was tough in itself. But I'm grateful for that. And again, it was just about the culture, just creating a new culture. And we've got that written on paper now for anyone that gets involved in the club, expectations and things that they just need to abide by, really, and just maintain those high standards. But again, look, people are going to look and think, Cardiff, they should be winning by 4, 5, 6 every game, and we know it's not that easy. The groundwork was done in pre-season, and that's why we are in the position we are now.
Yeah, I said the club's got such a proud history, but you've got that mix of players, haven't you? People like Laura, who's away with Wales, and players who are looking to make a career higher up, and then also players a bit like Corey Williams, who's been there for so long and is kind of playing for the enjoyment of playing, and you've got quite a mix of players in that.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, Corey, what a player! She'll be manager of this club one day, 100%. I'm sure of it. If not, then she'll become a great manager anyway, whether she wants to or not. I'm sure she'll appreciate that. But and we look at Carol, like Laura Sullivan called her Carol, but she's what an asset to have. Even in the league above. I think last year she's a completely different player this year. And again, people are saying, she won't have as much action, and or all of these comments that we're hearing. It's kind of like she's just rising above it, and anything that comes her way, she's stopping. If I look at the Bournemouth game this season, we could have quite easily lost that game. To be honest with you, that's the one game this season where we've gone away, out of our comfort zone, a long journey, grass pitch again, and we're looking and we're thinking she's made 2, 3, 4 really, really good saves, and she's shown her quality and shown why she's the Welsh number one. So again, it is an asset to have, and it also shows why we've got the defensive record we have at the moment.
Yeah, it's a terrific defensive record. We'll come back to Cardiff in a minute. Just a bit about your career. I may have missed a team out, so feel free to correct me. But I mean, you were at Buckland Athletic. You've been with Swansea, Birmingham Yeovil, director of football at the South Somerset Regional Talent Centre. How did your move to Cardiff come about?
So after Yeovil, I took a break, to be honest, but then I ended up moving to Buckland just to help them out, really. We completely transformed that club, and we again exceeded expectations. We did very, very well. We recruited very good players for the level that we were at. Considering we had Plymouth and Exeter, the two big dogs around us, we had some very good players there, and we were ready to push on. I won't go into detail on that, but it wasn't to be. And before I left, I moved over to Wales anyway. I bought a house in over the bridge. So I was here. I based myself here anyway. I was traveling up to Torquay, to believe it or not, to that area for Buckland. But yeah, and then I saw that Cardiff were looking for a coach, and I thought I'd take another break. A year on, I'm here. So yeah, it wasn't much of a break, but yeah.
Yeah, and you're enjoying coaching in Cardiff. I think you've probably got the longest bus trips in the division on a weekly basis, having to go kind of up to get to the bridge and then down to all the teams as well.
Yeah, I love it though. I love the traveling. The away games are brilliant. We're fortunate enough to, obviously we're independent at the moment, so we're fortunate enough to be able to have a coach and travel as an away, as a professional club would do. So it's good. We get a variety of games. The league's good. The English tier system's pretty solid, so it's a good environment. I think the club. When I first came into the club, it was just a good vibe from the people that were within. The Karen and Michelle who run the club, who own the club. They want the best for the club, as they always have.
Absolutely.
So. And once you're in that environment, it's hard to you just get involved. And I think we've got some good people around at the moment, and we're doing some good things.
Yeah, I know you certainly won't find two better people in women's football than Karen and Michelle. I can certainly vouch for that. There is, of course, the cliche of there's a lot of football still to play, but already you're 5 points clear at the top of the table. So as long as you keep doing what you're doing, it's all in your hands. Other teams have got to catch you, and you've got to slip up, but you're keeping winning. As a manager, how do you prepare the team where, particularly kind of in this league at the moment where fixtures can kind of chop and change? You've seen you've got a game this weekend, but had an FA Cup game been postponed because of the weather, that all of a sudden changes and things are chopping and changing about.
And that's it. That is it at the moment. I think we're over November and December. We play 2 league games, and the rest of them are cup games and other things. So that's it. We just go game by game. We want to win every game that we play. It doesn't really matter who's in front of us. I think we've shown that against Bridgewater that we're capable of doing what we do. Our style of play, our clear style of play, the players have shown they understand that. I've got a great coaching staff. I've got Simon Gromek, who's assistant manager, done some incredible things. Again, it starts from pre-season. The standards were so high that the players didn't really have a choice but to kind of mold into that culture quickly. The ones who didn't want to are no longer with us, and the ones who have bought into it and are reaping the rewards at the moment. So we just go game by game, and we don't look too far ahead. We don't look back on the things too much. We just we're building week on week. We're building. So I think the groundwork was done in pre-season. As from a manager's point, we're just building. There's nothing too much that need to change at the moment. Obviously, we're winning, so we don't need to change an awful lot right now.
Yeah, if it's not broke, don't fix it. Obviously, you're
Yeah.
still waiting to find out who your League Cup opponents are going to be because of their postponements. But FA Cup next weekend on the 11th. Now, the draw itself wasn't without its difficulties over on Talksport, but you've been drawn against Bournemouth Sports, who are the lowest ranked side left in the competition, who are guaranteed to be in the third round because Liscard have still got to get past Oxford United. What are you expecting from that Bournemouth Sports side?
Um, it's going to be a tough one. It's going to be a tough one. I say it's going to be a tough one because the Keynsham game was a tough one, really, because obviously we played Keynsham in the league and we'd won 6-0 previous, and it's very hard to kind of not to motivate, but to kind of be complacent going into that game, thinking, you know, we've done it before, so we're going to do it again. And the first half, for those that watched the first half against Keynsham, it was we kind of were on top of each other at one point, and it kind of, you know, we got to half time, we had some good talks, and we come out and we controlled the game, you know. So I'm hoping we don't go through that again in the Bournemouth game. But I think we don't know them. You know, they probably know us more than we know them at the moment. And you know, it's a cup final for them. Let's be honest. So for us, it's a dangerous opposition. But again, I've got complete faith in this team. They've, you know, they deliver week in, week out. So there's no reason why we can't go and do it. And for me, again, you know, to be in around and into the hat for the next round in the fourth round, WSL club's coming. So, you know, that's a big carrot for us to, you know, we cannot afford to let any standard slip over the next 3 or 4 weeks, you know, as players. So that's the message from me.
From a personal point of view, it goes national in the next round as well. So you got a chance for playing somebody up in the north, which is about the only opportunity I get each year to hope that Cardiff and Forest end up playing each other. But away from Cardiff and just the league as a whole, we've seen teams flying high in the FA Women's National League. In Newcastle, 28,500 for their FA Cup tie at the weekend. Then at the other end of the spectrum, in the same tier as well, we've got teams struggling to field sides and double digits being put past them. Given the level of success that the women's had in the Euros, would you like to see a bit maybe more support filtering down from the top leagues into the pyramid? And what do you think kind of is the next step in the ultimately amateur, you know, leagues of the women's football to kind of help grow the game at all levels?
That's a good question. In all honesty, I think we're on that journey already without realizing. You know, I think this year the FA Cup, the amount of money they've put into the FA Cup this year. You know, we played down end in, you know, before in I think it's the fourth qualifying round, and I think they made 3 grand for the 2 games. So, you know, and that's a lot of money for the club of their stature. You know, so I mean, I'm not going to go into the money that it is at the moment, but it's a lot of money for
Yeah.
clubs like us and, you know, Bournemouth Sports. You know, what a journey they could survive for another 3 or 4 years purely
Yeah.
just on what they've made for this year. So I think we're already seeing the journey. I think, you know, the Newcastle, what they've done over the last 2 years. I think last year they broke the record as well. So it's incredible. You know, it's incredible, and it's, you know, hats off to them. I think other clubs are doing similar. You know, you've got teams in our league, Exeter have done stuff with St James's Park. So, you know, fair play to them. And, you know, these clubs have got the men's club behind them, and they've got the ground to use and things. It's more doable, I think.
Yeah.
Whereas the independent clubs, you know, I think it's just PR. I think, you know, just get loads more out, get kids down. Kids are the way forward. You know, we got a load of kids coming down. We got 200 kids or so come down to
Oh,
the
great.
Keynsham game. So that's where it's at. But I think in terms of the journey, I think, you know, let's be honest, 3 4 years ago, pre-COVID, it was just the WSL pretty much. You didn't really hear about the championship. Now the championships, you know, Barclays are all over that, and they're on the FA player, and I think it's growing year on year. So I don't think, you know, I don't think you've got to be too worried. I think it's just going to build and build.
Yeah, I think the accessibility that you mentioned there is certainly something. I know when I was going to Cardiff, it was 25 minutes on the train from Cardiff Queen Street up to Istrid to get to the game. So I think, you know, if you put it closer in the centre, players and fans do come. But quick before you go, I have to ask you, and I'll preface this by saying we're recording this on Tuesday, kind of early evening before the game. It's England Wales tonight in the final group stage. Who are you rooting for? Bearing in mind where you live
Got to be
and
careful
coach,
now, I
and
know what I say.
and who do you think is going to win?
You know what? It's an interesting question because I'm in the middle. I'm in the middle. I think it's been such a strange World Cup. I've just seen Senegal have just qualified in
Yeah.
their group now, so that's going to be who one of the teams in this group. So in the next round, I think it's just been such a strange World Cup. There's so many key players missing as well. I'm trying to avoid your question really, but I think, look, I think what a nation Wales are. They're just
Mm.
so together, win, lose or draw. And you see England, we draw against USA, and everyone's on each other, and the media are on it, and there's just not that same passion and same belief in, unfortunately. But having said that, I am English. I have, I do want them to do well. So hopefully we both go through. Hopefully we both go through. Whatever that looks like, hopefully we both go through. Let's leave
Oh,
it
I
at
know that. I know that
that.
requires a big win for Wales. But Jamie, thanks so much for joining me, taking the time out. I'm sure all the viewers and listeners have loved your insight into Cardiff City doing so well in Division One Southwest, and best of luck for the rest of the season.
Thank you very much. Thanks for having me.
Well, a big thank you to Jamie for taking the time out to chat to me for this week's Women's Football Chat. I've got another guest for you next week. I'm spoiling you at the moment. So another guest on next week's show. Right, let's have a look at the fixtures that are coming up over the next 7 days. As I said, it's a bit messy. You've got FA Cup, you've got League Cup, you've got League Plate, and you've got all the divisions as well. It's all a bit messy and teams not playing kind of the rounds that you'd think they'd be playing and all the rest of it. So we'll start with the FAWNL Cup. Now we've got first round tie between London Seawood and Plymouth Argyle. The winner of that tie will face Cardiff in the second round. But that will now be on, we don't really know. Because this weekend is that first round tie. Next weekend it can't be played because it's the FA Cup and Cardiff are in that. So you're looking at then the 18th, but the 18th is the County Cup day. Now, off the top of my head, I don't know if any of those sides are in the County Cup. So it could be played on the 18th. It may not be able to be played on the 18th. We don't know. Also this weekend, it's the actual second round draw. So Derby County against Burnley, Exeter City take on MK Dons, Middlesbrough against Huddersfield Town, Stoke City against Nottingham Forest, Wolverhampton Wanderers against Durham Sestra. Now, we also have Portsmouth against Oxford United, but that game can't take place because Oxford United have got to play their FA Cup game that was postponed. Also, Watford against #United can't be played because Watford have got to play their FA Cup game that was postponed. You can see where this is going to go, and of course, if either of Oxford or Watford get through to the second round, in fact, actually, it doesn't matter because Portsmouth and are both through. So the second round tie can't be played next weekend. That'll have to be played on the 18th if they're not in County Cup action. We could end up with the second round being pushed back into January. It's a similar situation with the FAWNL Plate. Queen's Park Rangers against Portishead Town will have their third attempt at playing their first round tie. The last two got rained off. Hounslow against Southampton Women in the first round can't take place because Southampton Women are in the FA Cup action. So they can't play their first round tie while everybody else is playing their second round tie. Peterborough United take on Stourbridge for the second time in the Cup. Peterborough United got the better of Stourbridge in the FA Cup. AFC Farn against Boldmere St Michael's, Cambridge United against Cheltenham Town, Leeds United against West Bromwich Albion, Northampton Town against Hull City, but Crawley Wasps against Ashford Town. That is postponed as well because of the FA Cup. You can see how this is going to go. Right, and in the FA Cup, these are the three second round ties that are going to be played this weekend because they couldn't be played last weekend. So London Bees against Southampton Women's, which of course got abandoned, is now taking place again, but the venue is swapped to London. Watford against Crawley Wasps, an all third tier tie, and Liskeard Athletic of the fifth tier against Oxford United of the third tier. So as you can see, it's not just disrupting, of course, the FA Cup. It's disrupting the League Cup, the League Plate, the League fixtures as well. So I said it's going to get a bit messy, but no, you can keep abreast of everything on the Women's Football Chat. Right, let's have a look at the League fixtures. There really are not many because of all of this disruption. So let's have a look at the Division 1 North. There is one game. It's the bottom two, Brighouse Town against Loughborough Lightning. Now, Loughborough Lightning desperately need a win. They don't have one yet this season. And this is the halfway game for both of these sides. This is game number 11. Loughborough Lightning on 1 point at the moment. Brighouse Town on 7. If they win, then they do climb 2 places into 9th. And out of the bottom 2, crucially, going into what is pretty much the Christmas break. So Brighouse Town desperate for a win in Division 1, in the Northern Premier Division. In the Southern Premier Division, there's just one game as well. Gillingham against Bridgewater United. Gillingham in 7th, Bridgewater United in 10th. Now, Gillingham can get themselves 1 place higher up to 6th with a win. If Bridgewater get the away win, they climb from 10th into 7th. So a big opportunity for Bridgewater United to put a bit of distance. It would be a 6-point gap between themselves and the bottom 2. So great opportunity for Bridgewater United. Gillingham looking to consolidate that mid-table position in the Southern Premier Division. Division 1 Midlands has a few more games. Doncaster Rovers against Leek Town. That is 3rd against 10th. Doncaster Rovers has said this is one of the games in hand they've got over Stourbridge. So they'll be looking to get themselves back into 2nd, try and reduce that deficit with these games in hand that they've got. Leek Town could get themselves up to 8th and put a 6-point gap between themselves and the bottom 2. Lincoln City against Wem Town. That is 5th against 8th. Lincoln City could themselves go up to 2nd if results go their way. Now, if you remember the start to the season that Lincoln City had, we go back down to the results. They lost their first 3 games in a row, and then they lost to Newcastle as well. They only had 4 points. That Newcastle game was in the Cup, but they only had 4 points from their first 5 games, looking like they were going to have a difficult season. And now when they reach their halfway point this weekend, they could find themselves in 2nd if things go their way. So great turnaround from Lincoln City. Wem Town, again, they'll be looking for the victory as well. They've got a 5-point gap to the bottom 2 at the moment. They could increase that to 8, of course. Sporting Cowser against Leafield Athletic. Sporting Cowser in 2nd. Again, one of their games in hand over Stourbridge. They will need the victory to try and keep the pressure on as much as they can. Leafield Athletic are in 6th. Another side that could make big movements. They could get up to 4th with a victory. Division 1 North, just the one game. York City against Barnsley. York City then in 8th. Barnsley in 4th at the moment. York City can only climb 1 place to 7th. Barnsley, though, with a win would go 2nd and go just 1 point behind Durham Sestra. This is Barnsley's game in hand over the top 3 teams as well. So after this weekend, Barnsley, Durham Sestra would be top potential. Well, Durham Sestra will be top after this weekend. They've played 9. Barnsley could be 2nd, 1 point back, also having played 9. Newcastle are currently in 2nd. They've played 9. They're 1 point back. Leeds United 4 points back on 9. So the top of Division 1 North is getting very tight. Division 1 South East, Actonians against Cambridge City. Cambridge City down in 10th at the moment. Actonians in 7th. Actonians will with a win, move themselves from 7th to 3rd if results go their way. Chesham United in 8th are taking on AFC Wimbledon, who are currently in 3rd. And Hounslow are playing #United. Now, I'm interested to see that game, how big the scoreline gets. Now, this is not me kind of being mean to Hounslow, but you have to look at the recent record and go 12-0 against Cambridge, 15-0 against Actonians, 10-0 at half-time, and it got stopped at half-time. And this was against Cambridge United, Actonians and Ashford, i.e. 5th, 7th and 9th. And this is the #United who haven't lost. This is the #United with a goal difference of 26. And this is the #United who have been scoring. They put 13 past Chesham. They put 7 past Ashford. They put 5 past Cambridge United. It could be a bad week for Hounslow. Again, we're waiting to see on a league decision about that abandonment as well. Interesting to see what comes out of that. Finally, Division 1 South West, 2 games. Maidenhead United against Keynsham Town. That's 11th against 10th. That's so Maidenhead United on 3 points. They're in 11th. If they beat Keynsham Town, they will go above them and get themselves out of the bottom two. Keynsham Town could get themselves up to 9th and make it a 6-point gap to the bottom two. And the other game, Chelsea in 5th against Cardiff City, who are top, of course, 100% record. That is the final game of the weekend. Cardiff City, could they make it a 8-point gap at the top with maximum points as they go towards Christmas? That then is this week's Women's Football Chat. Thank you very much for joining me, and thank you once again to Jamie Phillip for coming and chatting to me about the season that Cardiff City Ladies have had so far. As I've said, I've got another guest lined up for next week, so I'll leave you waiting to see who that is. But thank you very much for watching and or listening to this week's Women's Football Chat. Your support, of course, is very much appreciated. If you could subscribe on YouTube, spread the word about the show a bit, that'd be very much appreciated. Of course, keep supporting your local women's football team. We've seen from Newcastle what can be achieved to get yourself through those turnstiles and into those seats to support your local women's football side. We've got plenty of fixtures to look at, plenty of results to look at on next week's show, plus that FA Cup third round weekend on the horizon as well. Thank you very much for joining me on this week's Women's Football Chat, and goodbye.